So this disaster, and it was a disaster, not just politically, but internationally. We changed our Russia policy as a result of this hoax. Went on as long as it did because pretty much nobody in Washington tried to put the brakes on. Don't want to point fingers or anything, but for all of 2017 and 2018, Republicans controlled both houses of Congress. Trey Gowdy was there, serving on the House Intel Committee. He joins us tonight. Congressman, thanks so much for coming on tonight. So,
yes, sir.
I think that this was, and I just said it from the very beginning, driven by the Obama administration. But it was allowed to metastasize because the Republican-controlled Congress did not stop it. Why do you think that is?
Well, two things. Let me just say, you referenced Susan Rice. You need to read the rest of that email, Tucker, and you can't because it hasn't been declassified. But if you want to fully understand what President Obama knew and what role he played, you need to read and access the rest of Susan Rice's email, and hopefully it'll be declassified one day and you can. For Russia, I thought Devin Nunes did a phenomenal job. This is what he said. We're going to find out what Russia did, with whom, if anyone, they did it, how to make sure they don't do it again in 2020, and then the issue of unmaskings and leaks. So there were 4 pillars on what he wanted us to look at. It's just nobody gave a damn about 3 of them. The only thing they cared about was the with whom, if anyone. So we did what? 60, 70 witness interviews. The Senate did that much or more. And then we had Bob Mueller. So look, am I defensive of Devin? I am, because he had an incredibly difficult 2017. He wrapped up his investigation a lot quicker than Bob Mueller did, and with a lot less help from the witnesses. No,
I think that's right. I think the scariest part of all of this is the behavior of the FBI, the most powerful law enforcement agency in the world. It's sinister what they did to Michael Flynn. You were briefed by the FBI in 2018, and shortly after that briefing came on this channel to describe your reaction to it. Here's what you said then.
But as of now, I think Chris Wray and Rod Rosenstein are stunned whenever people think Trump is the target of their investigation. I'll leave it up to them how to brief the president or how to brief his lawyers.
Was that point of view that you're talking about right now, was that strengthened when you went into this briefing last week?
Yes. I am even more convinced that the FBI did exactly what my fellow citizens would want them to do when they got the information they got, and that it has nothing to do with Donald Trump.
I remember watching that and thinking, boy, I hope he's right. Do you still feel that way?
Oh, gosh, no. No, that was I made a lot of mistakes in life, relying on briefings and not insisting on the documents. It took me about 3 weeks. I went over to the Department of Justice. I sat there for 4 hours. That's when I saw that Peter Strzok actually initiated and approved Crossfire Hurricane. That's when I saw the exculpatory information on George Papadopoulos. That's when I saw for the very first time that it was the Trump campaign mentioned in that predicate document. They'd been telling us all along, Trump's not the target, the campaign's not the target. So, yes, my mistake was relying on the word of the FBI and the DOJ and not insisting on the documents.
Right.
Luckily, it took me about 3 weeks to correct that mistake.
So that was in March. In July, which is, of course, many months later, you said of the investigation, it is not a witch hunt. You said point blank, it's not a witch hunt. And people say it is, it's not. But, of course, it was a witch hunt by definition. When did that dawn on you?
Well, Tucker, if you think about the 4 points, number one, what did Russia do? I am convinced that Russia tried to interfere with the fundamentals of our democracy. So point number one that we were asked to look at, what did Russia do? Number two, with whom, if anyone? I was down there for almost every witness interview, and I'm the one that asked the question. And the answer was no one with the Trump campaign did anything with Russia. Then we got to the unmaskings and the leaks. So I don't think asking what did Russia do to our country in 2016 or try to do, I don't think that was a witch hunt.
But we don't have evidence that they did hack the DNC servers or John Podesta's email. So how exactly did Russia skew the election or interfere any more than a dozen other countries try to interfere every day? I'm totally confused.
No, I think those are two separate inquiries. I don't think they impacted the results of the election at all. Donald Trump won fair and square. What did they try to do? We spent a year. We wrote a report. The Senate wrote a report. I don't think there's not much quarrel on the intelligence of did Russia try to interfere, sow
Well, there
the
is with
seeds of
me.
discord
I'm
in this
sorry.
country?
There is with me. I mean, lots of countries. I mean, I've lived there my whole life. Lots of countries interfere all the time. I want to know: is there any evidence that they hacked the DNC server? That's the central allegation. And we're hearing from the CrowdStrike guy, no, there is no evidence. So I don't know what this is about.
Well, we couldn't answer that because remember, the FBI did not gain access to that server. They didn't even try to gain access to that server.
Right.
The DNC gave it to CrowdStrike, and we will never know the answer to that question. I think on whether or not Russia tried to sow the seeds of discord, I think our report did a really good job of outlining that, yes, they did. Specific reference to the DNC, I asked that question. I don't know that anyone connected Russia with the hacking of the DNC, or if they did, I can't recall it.
Yeah. Oh, everyone did. Many Republicans did. And it turns out they didn't know that. Congressman, thanks so much for coming on tonight. Good to see you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. You too.